Most people think their money is safe in the bank. It's not. And the scary part is you won't even realize it's happening. Because right now across the United States, something quiet is going on. No headlines, no panic, no breaking news. But millions of people are slowly moving their money, and the ones who understand what's happening early are getting paid for it. Not by working more, not by taking risks, not by investing in complicated strategies, just by changing where they keep their cash. So here's the real question: if your money is sitting in a savings account right now, is it actually growing, or is it slowly losing value while you think you're being responsible? Because for years we were told something simple: earn money, save money, stay safe. And that sounds logical. It feels disciplined. It feels like the right move. But what if that advice quietly stopped working? What if the system changed and nobody told you? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. There's a reason why high-yield savings accounts, the ones paying 4%, even 5%, suddenly became popular. And it's not because banks became generous overnight. It's not because people suddenly got smarter. It's because something deeper shifted in the financial system, something most people don't understand. And the ones who ignore it end up falling behind, without even knowing why. Think about it. You go to work, you earn money, you save what you can. Maybe you feel proud of building that savings, and you should. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If that money is sitting in the wrong place, you're not actually saving, you're just holding cash while it quietly loses power every single year. And that loss doesn't feel dramatic. There's no alert, no warning, no moment where you suddenly notice it. It just happens slowly in the background, which is exactly why most people ignore it. Until one day they realize they've been doing everything right and still falling behind. So in this video, we're going to break down what's really happening, why high savings accounts suddenly matter, what changed in the system, and how a simple shift in where you keep your money can completely change how it grows. Because once you understand this, you won't look at your savings the same way again. And more importantly, you'll start asking a different question: not how much am I saving, but is my money actually working for me? To understand what's really happening, we need to go back for a moment, not years, not decades, just to how most people think about saving money today. Because the idea of a savings account feels simple. You earn money, you put it in the bank, and over time it grows. That's the assumption, that's the model most people believe in. And for a long time, that model actually worked. Banks used to pay meaningful interest. Saving money actually felt rewarding, and keeping cash in the bank made sense. But slowly that changed. Interest rates dropped, returns became smaller, and saving money turned into something very different. Not a way to grow wealth, but a way to protect it. At least that's what people were told. Because when your bank gives you almost nothing in interest, you're not really growing your money anymore, you're just holding it. And most people accepted that. They didn't question it because it felt normal. It felt safe. And more importantly, it didn't feel urgent. There was no obvious problem. Your balance still increased. Your money was still there. Everything looked fine on the surface. But under the surface, something else was happening. Something most people didn't pay attention to: inflation. Prices slowly rising, costs gradually increasing, not all at once, not dramatically, but consistently. And this is where the gap started to grow. Your savings were earning almost nothing, while the cost of living kept rising. Which means, even though your money stayed in the bank, its actual value was quietly decreasing. And the problem is, that kind of loss doesn't feel like loss. There's no moment where you see it. It doesn't hit you all at once. It just slowly reduces what your money can do, until one day you realize that the same amount of money doesn't go as far as it used to. And by then, the system has already been working against you for years. So what we have right now is a generation of people who learned one system but are living in a completely different one. They're still following the old rules: save money, keep it in the bank, stay safe. But the environment around those rules has changed. And this is exactly why something new started to rise. Something that looks simple on the surface. but represents a much bigger shift underneath high-yield savings accounts. On the surface, it just looks like better interest, but in reality, it's a signal that the system has changed again. And the people who understand that signal early are the ones who benefit the most. Because once you see what's happening, you stop thinking about saving money as just keeping it safe, and you start seeing it for what it really is, a decision one that either slowly costs you money or quietly makes it grow. Let's make this real. Meet Daniel. 32 years old. Lives in Texas, stable job, decent income, not rich. Not struggling, just normal. The kind of person who does everything right. He works hard, pays his bills on time, avoids unnecessary debt, and most importantly, he saves every single month, not aggressively, not perfectly, but consistently. $500 here, $700 there, sometimes more. And over time, that money adds up $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And for the first time in his life, Daniel feels something most people chase for years' security. He checks his bank account, and there it is, a number that makes him feel safe, comfortable, in control. And if you asked him, he'd tell you he's doing well. Because that's what we've all been taught, saving money equals progress, right? But here's the problem, that feeling of safety is based on a number, not reality. Let's zoom in. Daniel's savings account is earning almost nothing. He doesn't know that he's never checked, because honestly, who checks their interest rate? You check your balance, not your rate. And that's exactly where the system hides. Now let's break it down. Daniel has $10,000 saved, and he's earning almost nothing in return, just a few dollars a year. Pause for a second. Think about that. You give a bank $10,000, and they give you back less than what you'd spend on a single coffee run. But here's where it gets worse. Inflation prices go up. Groceries, rent, gas, everything. Let's say inflation is around 3%. That means Daniel's $10,000 is losing around $300 in value every year. So what's actually happening? His account says it's growing, but in reality it's shrinking. And this is where most people make the biggest mistake. They trust what they see instead of understanding what's happening. And this is where the story changes, because one small moment completely shifts Daniel's perspective. One evening, Daniel is out with a friend. Nothing special, just a normal conversation. And casually, his friend says something strange. I'm getting 4.5% on my savings. Daniel laughs because that sounds wrong. Savings accounts don't pay that much. That sounds like investing. That sounds like risk. That's not safe money. But his friend pulls out his phone, shows him the account, 4.5% real, and suddenly everything Daniel believed starts to crack. He goes home, opens his laptop, searches it high, yield, savings accounts, and what he finds doesn't make sense. Same system, same banks, same idea. But instead of almost zero, they're paying 4%, 5%, even higher in some cases. Same money, 100 times difference. That's not a small improvement. That's a completely different game. Now here's where it gets interesting. Daniel doesn't move his money immediately. Why? Because like most people, he hesitates. What if it's risky? What if I miss something? What if it's too good to be true? This is how most people lose money, not by making bad decisions, but by delaying good ones. And this hesitation is exactly what the system depends on. Because banks know something, most people don't move their money even when they should. We stay where we're comfortable, we trust familiarity, we avoid friction even if it costs us, and banks use that they don't need to give everyone high returns, they only need to give it to the people who look for it. Which means two people can have the same money in the same system and get completely different results. This is the hidden layer. It's not about earning more, it's about positioning better. Now Daniel finally decides he moves his money. It takes him less than 10 minutes, no complicated process, no risk, no stress. And then something subtle happens. Nothing dramatic, no sudden wealth, no overnight change, but month by month he notices something. His money is growing without effort. And for the first time, it feels different, not exciting, not flashy, but powerful. Because this isn't about getting rich, it's about not getting quietly poorer. And this is where the real lesson begins, because what Daniel experienced is just the surface. The real story is what's happening underneath. High-yield savings accounts didn't suddenly appear. They've always existed, but they didn't matter before. Why? Because interest rates were low, money was cheap, banks didn't need your deposit, so they paid you almost nothing, and nobody questioned it. But then everything changed. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates, borrowing became expensive, loans slowed down, and suddenly cash became valuable. When something becomes valuable, people compete for it, even banks. So now they need your money, and to get it, they have to pay for it. That's why high-yield savings accounts are rising, not because they want to help you, but because they need your money. And here's the part most people still miss. Even now, traditional banks still pay almost nothing. Why? Because they don't have to change. They rely on one thing: your inaction. Most people won't move their money, even if it costs them. Because moving money feels like work, feels unnecessary, feels complicated. But it's not. It just feels that way. And that feeling is expensive. Daniel almost didn't move his money. He almost stayed where he was, like millions of people still do. And if he had, nothing would look wrong. His account would still grow, numbers would still go up. But silently, he'd be losing every year. And this is the dangerous part: you don't notice it. There's no alert, no warning, no moment where everything collapses. It just slowly drifts. And that's how people fall behind, not dramatically, but gradually. This isn't about savings accounts, this is about awareness, because money doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards understanding. You can work harder than everyone and still lose if your system is wrong. And that's the uncomfortable truth. The financial system is not designed to explain itself to you. You are expected to figure it out, and most people don't. They follow outdated advice. Trust old systems, repeat the same habits year after year. But once you see it, you can't go back. Because now you don't just look at your savings, you question it. You don't just ask, how much do I have? You ask, is this actually growing? And once that question enters your mind, everything changes. Because now you're not just saving money, you're managing it. And that's where the real advantage begins. So if this made you think, if this changed how you see your own money, then the next step is simple. Don't just watch, start paying attention. Because the people who win in this system are not the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who understand it early. And the earlier you see it, the bigger the advantage becomes. So now it's your move. Is your money actually growing? Or is it just sitting there slowly losing value?